Moving on now to a lot of us followed the events that happened in America shortly after President Trump addressed his supporters, vowing never to concede the 2020 elections in a speech on the eclipse of the rioters stormed the Capitol, breaching all police barricades, forcefully entering the building. Many described this as shocking and a setback to democracy. Now, many Nigerians have been gloating and saying, you see, that's them. It's now happening to them. But it's important for us to step back and begin to see how we can assess the situation. Because with an insurrection, just as what we saw and observed in the US, it brings to mind the natural ability of man, the innate ability of man, regardless of where he is from, to do certain things. And is that reality we would like to discuss this morning? Because sometimes Nigerians, we criticize ourselves so much. We make ourselves look as if it's only us, so it's only in this part of the world. We are very used in Nigeria, in Africa. But suddenly, we are seeing a replica of what happens in Africa, even in Ghana. I saw that. It happened. It is this whole that they still miss, and we condemn each other. So the truth is, let us look at what happened and see how do you understand it? How do you assess it? And what does it mean to you as a Nigerian? And how do you reassess yourself as a Nigerian vis-a-vis what we are seeing abroad? I'd like to start with Mariam. Want to go or BC?
Mariam, she's the American. I'm so far from American. There's nothing American about me.
Yeah.
Oh, you want to go?
Let me go.
Okay.
See, people want to be modest.
No, I can't go.
So this America of A, I thought they would have occupied America now. Yes, now they will go and United States of America will occupy themselves, and take over and attack the sovereignty their own sovereignty, the way they attacked that of other nations when this happened in defense of democracy. But we saw their president incite this kind of insurrection on national TV, and everybody was, confused as to what to happen. After the elections, he refused to concede. He followed the legal channels. He went to court. Just like our people here too will go to court and they will still do. There's something innate in man that is general to all, and it's also legal. Because if not, there will be no defense. There's a defense in law. When I studied it, I used to wonder why. It's called bona fide claim of rights, of ownership. So if this table was mine, for instance, and Obiajulu comes here to put her cup, I can go ahead and start breaking the cup. And when the police arrest me, I will raise that defense and say, because I want to lay claim to my table, is why I'm throwing out everything that is on the table. So I could do so, raise that defense to break it, which is why when our legislators decided to put that defense in our criminal books and provide it, is because they know in a person's nature you will go to any length sometimes to defend what you truly believe in. But when it now happens in political sphere, we will not hear it's African, it's not black people and a lot of other things like that. So the possibility of it happening the drama even started the moment they were doing their elections. The way the president started sounding like Idi Amin, it's just sort of
let me come to Mariam.
Okay. So for me, American problems, and I know that they will sort themselves out. For me, what's most important is how it reflects on us, how it affects us, what we learn from it, what it says about us. And for a lot of us, we have been almost told to believe that, as you mentioned, it's an African. They're our blood. We're just unruly people. We don't believe in anything. We don't believe in law and order. We don't want anything to work. That is just how the black man is made. Some people have even come to believe that there's something just not quite complete about us. But for me, what it has shown is that with the years of work that America has put, the institutions that they have put in place, it took only one egocentric, rude, just ignorant person to break it down and make a shame and a sham of their democracy. And so for me, it shows that what we are going through in Nigeria is not a people problem. It's our leadership. It's a leadership problem. If our leaders are corrupt, if our leaders are not truthful, if our leaders do not uphold law and order, if they do not uphold, there's this word we always use for what the rule of law, your people will not feel any justice, and they want justice. So that is a man that has not upheld anything that stands for democracy in his country, and see what it has caused, and that's what is happening in our country.
UBC, another thing that the news everybody observed was the fact that the National Guard weren't called during Black Lives Matter protests. Immediately, those boys came on the streets. The National Guard, their army was called, this police, everybody was there, and they totally barricaded. Now, this happened. These boys entered the Capitol all the way to Pelosi's office. They sat down. They destroyed. Army didn't show up. The police did not show up. It was the police within the Capitol that was restraining these guys before the Metropolitan Police now eventually came. The point, therefore, is it was almost like a deliberate act to allow this unruly act to come about. Now, this is a very African thing where we see it. What happened? They're not called in the army. Remember, listen, I'm trying to make a point here. When ENSA started, calling the army, calling this, we have to stop them. This happened. Oh, we cannot do the army. We cannot bring in the army. We have to be Nigerian police. Therefore, I'm asking, we see an American president refusing to do the right thing to stop this unruly behavior. For us, what does that? How do you understand? How do you interpret this as an African? Because if it had happened in Nigeria, we would have said, we allowed the breakdown of law and order to this point.
We couldn't stop
and we
it.
couldn't stop it.
Okay, so for me, I just feel that everywhere in the world is somehow the same. The way the human beings behave, the only thing that separates you is when you now start evolving, when you now choose to say, okay, I want to be a better man than that I can be, the best that I can be. And if you do not choose that, you're still going to be at that level of viciousness, and it cuts across countries. Now, America has been so beautiful in their, marketing? They have marketed themselves to the world outside that they are perfect. They are the ones that uphold democracy. They uphold the rule of law. When you stay there, you see the difference. I was in New York, was it 2 years ago? That same day I landed, they killed some people on my street. The hotel that I stayed, people were, I saw beggars, people sleeping under and I'm like, is this the almighty America? What's happening here? But we do not see all of those. What they paint to us, what they show us is the positivity of their country. We do not get in there and see the negatives. Now, Mr. Trump decided to now show us their other side. This is not the first time things like this are happening, but because now the touchlight is on everyone. Social media is there. You can't hide some information. It just comes out. It just takes somebody to get their phone and show you what is happening, and you see what's happening everywhere else. So it's not something they could contain from the outside world, and we're able to see. That tells me that the problem we have is ego. Now, when a true leader understands that it's not about me, it's about the interest of the people I am sent to lead, you will concede when you need to concede. A true hero knows when to step back from a fight. A true hero knows when not to continue.
Let me build on that a bit, because we always say that America has strong systems, but the system didn't work. Let me tell you why the system did not work. Because if the system had worked, the moment those guys, because first of all, they already knew.
Yes.
We saw the climate. That in fact, there were so many tweets online saying that this is going to happen. The same way they were saying that they'll come and burn TVC, they'll burn this. We all kind of knew something was going to happen.
It was an intel.
People knew that these guys are going to march to the Capitol. Now, because of that intel, the system that we say is so strong should have automatically
found a way to stop
a way to ensure to introduce the National Guards. But it didn't happen. The system did not work either because of their commitment to the president as a person, or the commitment not committed to their role.
We must still give it to the system in America, because the Congress, while all this madness was happening, were debating how to declare the president-elect president, whether or not.
They ran away.
When war landed, but they were in the sitting. In fact, what we would like to see our National Assembly do is show such independence of the executive the way the Congress did. Here, we will still be reminding them, are we going to debate? What, do you want to invite? Do you want to someone? Do you understand? They will still be looking at legalese while these things are happening. Because the Congress were already debating. The people who were for him were saying they were for him on the floor of the House, and the people who were against him were voting on.
Let me play. Okay, go ahead.
Nima, you say all this thing that you're saying. The reason why it fell the way it fell, the way it happened was because they would say the Republicans, the ones that that got the president, the party, refused to do what they were meant to do from the very beginning. They dragged their feet, they enabled his bad behavior till it got them to that place. So there was no heroism, there was nothing heroic about what they did. They finally had to do that because it was now so glaring, and also for their own political ambition, so that they will know tomorrow where you stand. So now that's where I wanted to go.
Against institutions.
You hear something about legacy that they kept saying over and over again. You need to have something over money that is more important to you, over power, and that is legacy. If people have that thing where it says my integrity, my legacy, my name, people will be more careful of how they go. But we don't have that here. There's not that one thing we're afraid that if that finally leaves, we'll be ashamed of ourselves. Once you have nothing to be ashamed of, you will just do everything.
Another thing that occurred to me from the happening in the U.S. was that if for whatever reason Trump remains president, and he has 13 or 12 days, he still has 12 days. Anything can happen to Biden. Anything can happen, right? Let's just imagine he remains president. Do you know that those who are anti-Trump today might become as volatile as the pro-Trump guys? Yeah. So what has told me that the average American, regardless of how we see how civilized they come across, they are just as unruly as that man, that pro-Trump man on the street, because they have not been pushed to the wall the same way the pro-Trump supporters have been. He's telling us the innate behavior of a man.
Yes. Which we must also understand a man to defend that thing that you truly believe is right. So the anti-Trump guys were patient enough for the system for the time to reach exhaustion. They didn't believe. If it was in Nigeria here by now, they would not pay the two sides.
No. It's not about patience. They were constantly instigated, pushed until they did what they did. What the difference is that we have a system. They have it. We don't have that sort of system. There's no respect for a system. There's no respect for institution that is in place, so that the innate ability for you to fight be an unruly for what you think is your right. We do not have a system that makes sure that this is the way to go about. Either you go legally, you stand on a queue
and trust the system. So you've landed where I'm going. So we need systems, we need institutions that we can trust here, that will give you that calmness to wait it out.
Yeah.
What they simply
Let me go on a break.
Wait.
Let's go on a break. When we come back, we've talked about the U.S. Now bring the conversation home. What have we learned? How do we now construct? Now that we learned from the U.S., how do we begin to build our system to have that structural integrity?
Yeah.
Stay with us. We'll be right back. Thanks for staying with us. So we've seen earlier that we discussed the U.S.'s reaction to the insurrection that happened a couple of days ago, and the fact that many had compared it to their behavior towards the Black Lives Matter protests, and they see how the police restrained themselves from these protesters compared to how they did with the Black Lives Matter protesters. Now, we want to bring the conversation home to Nigeria, where we as a people, we've condemned ourselves for so long. We've made it look as if we are a hopeless case in areas such as this. That, we have bad leaders. Our systems are corrupt. Now, the world's strongest democracy is seen crumbling down. What are the lessons we Nigerians are taking from this? It's obvious, it's clear that the singular thing that differentiates the American man from the Nigerian is that respect for the rule of law. Yeah. Or the enforcement of the rule of law. Because we have rule of law in Nigeria. That's not the problem. The enforcement is the issue, because the American man that wants to slap his wife, or that wants to throw something on the floor, or that wants to run the red light, it's not because he's better than the Nigerian. Because if I do it, they catch me. So the downfall driver that is parking on the road, the patriarchy, the Nigerian man that is just beat his wife anyhow, or the Nigerian man that is stealing from the government government presses, it's not because he's a madman. It's because the rule of law we have is not enforced to put him in check. That's the singular difference between me, us, and them.
Yeah, Mariah, a good example. You hear many people say, why is it that when Nigerians travel abroad, they act differently?
They behave well.
Their blood doesn't change when they travel abroad. The color of their skin does not change. It's just the enforcement of the rule of law, as you just said. So the thing is, for me, as I said earlier, it's a leadership problem. That is why we are where we are. So yes, as human beings, we are all the same. But the truth is that if you do not have a good leader, well, first of all, I wanted to say that should we propose like a Nobel Peace Prize for Goodluck Jonathan?
Yes.
Let me tell you why I say
yes.
it. Sometimes we do not understand the blessing
Enormity,
of what we have
until we lose it.
Now looking at Trump behaving like a spoiled child, I now realize what good Jonathan did at the time that he did it.
Yes.
You know, considering all that has come, if he had just acted even a little bit that he was not going to hand over, it would have caused us so much problem. What he did has helped us, you know, to go through these 4 years and these 8 years that we went through. So for me, I will be proposing that, please, Jonathan, for what you did, I think you deserve a Nobel Peace Prize.
We should give it to him. Yeah. Honestly, we should.
I never knew I would say that.
Yeah.
I never thought I would say that, but honestly, I have to at this point, because reevaluating the entire situation, I'm thinking to myself,
Jonathan had more supporters than Trump.
Because his countenance, his demeanor after he stepped down, after he conceded victory, was calm. You know, because if he had allowed the pressure around him to do what he would not only had done.
He has people.
Yes.
He has to fight for the Niger Delta. Was
looking at
somebody who was ready on the day of collection, ready to scatter the votes.
So in hindsight,
for the last order, what's his name again? The
Orubebe.
So, you know, he was there ready.
He shall not take it.
There were like multiple copies of him outside waiting to do the same thing. But then, what I wanted to emphasize was not only did the institutions in America work, the people's collective will also counted. Now we talk about goodness, rule of law and order, and in Nigeria, an ordinary traffic example will show you that one person will break it and the rest of people will continue to follow. Let's understand clearly what is legal, what is rule, what is law, what is order, and everybody should try and conform, and we will punish any wrongful behavior against what we know is right. In Nigeria here, when it comes to my child, your child, a relative, we start to make excuses. And we allow, before we know, people now generalize and say that is who we are. That is not who we are.
For us to even get to a point where our leaders now start instituting systems that will work, it has to start from us. It has to start from patriotism. Now, we are the leaders that we have. There is no difference between the leader out there and the person who is working as a clerk somewhere. You just need to give him a table and a chair and he becomes a god. Now, when we start changing the mindset to understand that it's not about you, it's about Nigeria, it's not about your tribe, it's about Nigeria, you will see that we'll start raising people who will understand that they need to institute systems, they need to obey the rule of law, not because of their personal benefit, but for everybody else. That's the only way we are going to have leaders that will obey, that will give us the system, that will not care that the system will affect them when they are no longer there.
Let me disagree with you slightly, okay? We cannot create systems. Christians evolve over time.
Yes.
So as we are building and strengthening our rule of law, and strengthening our enforcement, gradually the system begins to be strengthened.
How do we strengthen?
Give it.
No, hold on. How do we strengthen the rule of law when we do not believe in the rule of law, when we do not enforce the rule of law, when it comes to us personally? So let me tell you, let me give you a quick example of what happens. So you don't want to enforce this rule of law somehow because you know that you are committing the same crime at the back, and you know that your position is protecting you right now. So you don't want to enforce it so that when you leave and you are caught, it will not be enforced against you. That's where we have the problem. But if you get into a position and you are not thinking about how you are going to protect yourself when you leave, you will put the right, you ensure you enforce the rule of law.
Can stop. It's like this. So this, all of us want water in this cup, and we are giving spoons to go to the river to bring water. So I continuously put my portion. You put yours. You put yours. Eventually, we have a cup full of water. But when I'm coming and I'm looking at, I cannot suffer. How many spoons exactly will fill my own? Let me fetch a bucket. So I'll put my own quickly, you know, and you allow me. morale then
personal
says,
interest.
me too, I'm tired now, and then we break it.
Yeah.
So we have to go back to that point where we start to drop our own drops till the system you mentioned now gets strong. So if you get to that public place and you're supposed to queue up, you just fall in line and queue. You know, and if you have to come back another day, ask. When somebody is trying to break the line and pick somebody, insist.
My own is,
on the right thing.
Our leaders more accountable. We need to find ways to hold them accountable. We need to find ways that when they do wrong, we recall them from wherever they are. Until we're able to do that, our leaders will still, do things and get away with it.
I think, for my own closing, I think that the police needs to be empowered properly to enforce this law. The judiciary needs to be empowered properly because these are the people, these are the independent, very good, and also these are the various institutions that we need that will help us strengthen that rule of law. And once it's strengthened, hopefully by God's grace, we can begin to align, and then we won't have the kind of breakdown they have in America. Let's run with tweets.
The Keith Maffe says, no be today. I always said that America leaves its own backyard to mind other people's business. At their home front, too, is a battle. But like you said, respect for the rule of law, knowing there are consequences for a wrongful deed, cautions people from going overboard majorly.
Adedayo says, this is what happens when people benefit from cheating the system and getting away. He finally met a system he had to bow down to and cooperate.
Hashtag NSAS winner says, this is a lesson for all to know that democracy is fragile. People should stop voting for strong men. Strong men can destroy institutions. Institutions should continuously be strengthened due to influences from rogue politicians.
And Taiwo says, generally we are all political animals. No matter the race, the political behavior is the same. No race is perfect at all. But the difference is the system theory and how our leaders respond to issues.
On that note, we have to end. But I think with this experience, I would hope that Nigerians will believe more in themselves and trust that we actually can fix this.
We'll get there.
We can fix this. This is not rocket science. So this experience should have shown us that, listen, believe in the man on the street. Believe in the madman. Believe in him because he also has love. He has compassion. And he actually has the ability to obey the rule of law. So once we can actually respect each other, we can have a better nation. Let's go to the break. When we come back, we'll bring in our celebrity guest. Stay with us. We'll be right back.